I like using pint-sized wide-mouth mason jars for my overnight oats because they're made of glass, so they're plastic-free, and they're easy to clean, and they're super versatile, and I just really like how they look. We'll begin with a pint-sized mason jar, but you could really use any container for this. And I like to add my oats last, so we're going to start with our wet ingredients. To add the natural sweetener, I like to go with either honey or maple syrup. So for this recipe, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And to add more flavor, I'll add a teaspoon of vanilla. And another ingredient I really like to use is apple cider vinegar. I find that it just really gives a little kick of taste to the oats and just kind of wakes up the flavors. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And again, to add some flavor, we're going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon. And of course, we need to add a little bit of salt. So I'm going to add 2 pinches of salt. Now, another superfood that we can add to these overnight oats is chia seeds. These are considered a superfood because they're high in fiber, protein, and healthy fats. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon to them. The flavor is very mild. I'm going to give this a stir so that all those ingredients are mixed together. And then for the liquid, you can use any milk of choice. I'm going to use almond milk, and you'll just add 1 cup of your milk. Give that another quick stir. And now it's time to add the oats. You can use either quick or old-fashioned oats. And really the only difference between the two is that quick oats are old-fashioned oats that have been cut down into smaller pieces. This just means that they can cook a little bit faster. I prefer the smaller texture of the quick oats when making this recipe. You'll want to add 1 cup of oats to your jar. I'm using a 1/2 cup because it fits easier into my jar. You can add your second 1/2 cup of plain oats, or I've come up with a method of toasting the oats that I think is so delicious and just adds a little bit more flavor. So now I'll show you how I toast the oats. You'll want to start with a microwave-safe bowl, and then we're going to add just a tablespoon of butter. And you could make this dairy-free by adding a dairy-free butter, or you could use maybe coconut oil. Next, I'll put this in the microwave for about 20 seconds until it's melted. That only took 20 seconds, and now we have our melted butter. And before we add our oats, I want to add a little bit of salt to give it some flavor. 2 pinches of salt. And now I'm going to add 1 cup of quick oats. And using a spatula, I'm now just going to mix those around so that the butter lightly coats all of the oats. Ooh, coats the oats. That's a tongue twister. Here's a cookie sheet that I have lined with a piece of parchment paper. And I'm just going to take my spatula and go ahead and spread these oats out onto the parchment paper. And I'm just going to gently spread these around so that they're evenly distributed so that the heat can circulate around all of the oats in the oven. Now we're going to put this into a 350-degree oven for 12 minutes. And through the magic of television, here's a cookie sheet of oats that have been toasted for 12 minutes. They're just lightly browned and a little bit crispy. And it really brings out the earthy smell of the oats. I added 1/2 cup of the plain oats to my jar, and now I'm going to add my second 1/2 cup of the toasted oats to the jar. Let's see how neat I can do this. There we go. There, it's not too bad. And then I'll just store the toasted oats in a jar in my pantry until next time. So now that we have all of our ingredients incorporated, we can just use our spoon and gently give that a quick stir. The oats will quickly incorporate into our liquid. It's going to seem a little bit wet at this point because the chia seeds and the oats haven't soaked up all those liquids yet. Next, I'll just twist on a lid and these will go right into my fridge. And then like magic, overnight, you'll come back and open your overnight oats and discover that your daughter has already gotten into them this morning. As you can see, it's just a real nice consistency that you can add more liquid to it, or fruits, or nuts, or any other flavorings that you like. One of my favorite ways to enjoy overnight oats is with my homemade chia seed jam. I included a link in the description below to my video showing how I make my chia seed jam. I enjoy this plain. That is so delicious. I love how toasting the oats first just gives them a little bit more flavor, a little more crust and crunch to them. I love incorporating the half cup of toasted oats. It just gives it that much more of a earthy and rich flavor. I can just take a spoonful of my blueberry jam and a spoonful of oats. That is so good. I get a little excited when I can make a healthy breakfast like this that's just ready to go in the morning. And no one says you only have to eat it for breakfast. This is a delicious lunch too. Well, I probably have blueberry seeds in my teeth now, but let me show you the difference between the plain oats and the toasted oats. So you can just see the difference in color once they're toasted. You could certainly make this recipe with just your plain oats, but it won't have quite as much flavor. And you could also make this recipe with just the toasted oats if you really want to ramp up the flavor a little bit more. So you'll just have to try both and see what your preference is.